At the crossroads of progress and precaution, the economy sends signals that are often muted by the noise of growth. Signs of a coming recession are being ignored, a phrase that may hold the key to safeguarding our financial future. Keep watching as we will talk about the evidence that suggests we may be on the brink of change. Historical context of past recessions. Recessions are like cold seasons in the economy. They come around every so often and can have a chilling effect on our financial health. A recession is when the economy slows down for a period longer than a few months. It's not just a one-time event, but a series of events that show the economy is shrinking, not growing. Let's take a walk down memory lane and look at some of the past recessions and what caused them. The Great Depression in the 1930s was the mother of all recessions, and it was caused by a massive stock market crash. Fast forward to the 1970s, and we had a recession caused by an oil crisis when oil-producing countries stopped shipping oil, making it super expensive. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know when a recession is coming? Well, there are some telltale signs. Before a recession hits, you'll often see things like people spending less money, factories producing less stuff, and sometimes the government or banks might make it harder to borrow money. These signs are like the economy's way of saying, hey, I'm not feeling too good. One big sign is when the gross domestic product, or GDP, which is like the economy's report card, starts to go down. This means the total value of everything the country makes is getting smaller. Another sign is when people start losing their jobs, and it gets harder to find new ones. But here's the thing, even though these signs can warn us, sometimes people don't pay attention, or they think, this time it's different. But history has taught us that these signs are important, and if we ignore them, we might get caught in the rain without an umbrella when the recession storm hits. Current economic indicators. First up, let's talk about GDP contraction. GDP, or gross domestic product, is like the total paycheck of a country. When it goes down, it means the economy isn't doing as well. Recently, the U.S. GDP grew at a slower pace of 1.3% in the first quarter of 2024, which is a step down from the previous 3.4% growth. This slowdown can be a red flag for a recession. Next, we have inflation. Think of inflation like a fever. When prices rise too fast, it can signal economic sickness. In March 2024, the U.S. saw an inflation rate of 3.5%, which is a bit like having a persistent low-grade fever. It's not sky-high, but it's above the comfort zone and can hurt people's buying power. Lastly, there's the inverted yield curve. This is when short-term investments in government bonds pay more than long-term ones. It's like if a short sprint tired you out more than a marathon, which doesn't make sense. This has been happening for a record 18 months. And historically, it's been a pretty reliable sign that a recession is coming. But here's the twist. Even though these signs are flashing warning lights, they're being somewhat ignored or downplayed. Some experts argue that the economy is resilient, and others believe that the inverted yield curve might not be the predictor it once was. It's a bit like ignoring a cough or a sneeze during flu season. Sure, it might be nothing, but it's better to be cautious and prepared, right? So, as the debate continues, these economic indicators are worth keeping an eye on. They might just be telling us to get our economic umbrellas ready, just in case it starts to pour. Job market analysis. As we navigate through 2024, the job market presents a complex picture. The unemployment rate has seen a slight uptick to 3.9% in April from 3.8% in March. This change is subtle but noteworthy, as it deviates from the expected creation of 240,000 jobs, settling instead at 175,000. The underemployment rate, which includes part-time workers seeking full-time positions and those marginally attached to the workforce, stands at 7.4%. This figure captures the essence of those who are employed but not in their desired capacity or volume of work. A closer look reveals a shift in the labor market towards skilled labor, with a decrease in hiring for knowledge-based professionals. This suggests a buyer's market for brain and a seller's market for brawn, indicating a higher demand for physical labor over white-collar jobs. The reality on the ground, however, tells a different story. Many American consumers report a deteriorating job situation, contrary to the optimistic statistics. This discrepancy points to a great stay phenomenon, where people hold on to their current jobs amidst uncertainty, leading to a stagnant hiring rate. While the job market shows growth in certain sectors, the overall picture is one of cautious movement, with underemployment and a shift in labor demands painting a more nuanced state of American employment. It's a good time to have a job, but a challenging time to be looking for one. Consumer behavior and spending. In 2024, consumer behavior is evolving rapidly, reflecting a world that's still adjusting to post-pandemic realities and economic uncertainties. One of the most significant shifts we've seen is in spending habits. Consumers are tightening their belts, with many opting to save more and spend less. This cautious approach is partly due to the lingering effects of the pandemic, which has led to a reassessment of priorities and values. The trend towards digital shopping and ethical consumerism is on the rise, as 70% of consumers are willing to pay more for products that are ethically sourced or sustainably produced. Meanwhile, social commerce sales are predicted to reach nearly $3 trillion by 2026, indicating a strong move towards online platforms for purchasing. The psychological impact of a recession on consumer confidence cannot be overstated. After months of decline, consumer confidence has seen a bounce back in May, but the shadow of recession looms large, with concerns about inflation and job security persisting. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index rose in May, yet the Expectations Index remained below the threshold that typically signals a recession ahead. Consumers are also increasingly anxious about the future, with the perceived likelihood of a U.S. recession over the next 12 months rising again in May. This anxiety is reflected in their spending behavior, with a focus on essential goods and a hesitancy to make large purchases. As a result, brands are adapting, offering more flexible payment options and focusing on creating a seamless omnichannel retail experience to maintain customer loyalty. Government and Federal Reserve response. In the face of economic downturns, the government and the Federal Reserve play crucial roles in stabilizing the economy. The Federal Reserve, or the Fed, uses monetary policy tools like interest rate adjustments to manage inflation and support employment. For instance, in 2024, the Fed has maintained the federal funds rate at a range of 5.25% to 5.5%, the highest in over a decade, to curb inflation, which remains above their 2% target. The government, on the other hand, can implement fiscal policies such as tax cuts or increased public spending to stimulate economic activity. In times of recession, the Fed may also employ measures like quantitative easing to inject liquidity into the financial system. Evaluating the effectiveness of these policies, the Fed's stance on interest rates has been a balancing act. While inflation has eased from its peak, it's still above the desired level, indicating that the high interest rates are having a mixed impact. The labor market remains tight, suggesting that the policies have managed to avoid significant job losses while combating inflation. Global economic factors. As we step into 2024, the U.S. economy is not just shaped by domestic policies and actions, but also by a tapestry of global events. Geopolitical tensions continue to simmer, with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and elevated trade tensions, with China adding layers of complexity and risk. These conflicts, alongside the Middle East's instability, particularly the direct strikes between Israel and Iran, have heightened the sense of uncertainty. Trade relations, too, play a pivotal role. The World Trade Organization forecasts a rebound in global trade, expecting merchandise trade to grow by 2.6% in 2024 after a contraction in the previous year. However, this optimism is cautious, shadowed by the potential risks from regional conflicts and economic policy uncertainties. Moreover, the U.S. is actively engaging in trade policy that supports workers' rights and sustainable practices, aiming to bolster supply chain resilience and address unfair trade practices. This approach reflects a broader trend of seeking more inclusive and durable trade relationships, even as global cooperation faces challenges. In essence, the U.S. economy in 2024 is navigating through a period of transition, where domestic economic health is closely intertwined with the ebb and flow of international relations and trade dynamics. The ability to adapt and respond to these external factors will be crucial for sustained economic growth and stability. As we close this chapter, remember that knowledge is your best defense in uncertain times. Share your insights, hit the like button if you've learned something new, and subscribe to stay ahead of the curve with more thought-provoking content.